I am Games.
I am also Games.
And you're listening to another I Am Games podcast, now helpfully delineated by the little microphone symbol in the thumbnail. So if you don't like these podcasts, just, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Just to clarify one more time exactly why we're doing podcasts. I figured I'd put it at the front of these since it seems like people don't seem to make it to the end where we usually have our clarifications. At present, neither of us really has time to make fully scripted, edited videos for this channel, especially because the ones we have done have not been wildly successful. And if you look at the view counts on these podcasts versus the fully edited videos, you'll quickly start to realize exactly, how little it affects our view count to put that extra effort in.
Yeah, kind of sad, kind of unfortunate.
Right. And we would like to do those more edited videos. It's just a matter of if this channel was successful enough that we felt we could take more time away to do that, it would be different. But
yeah, I think something else that needs to be clarified, because I've said it a few times in comments looking through the responses to these podcasts, is that these are not reviews of any of the games we have been talking about.
No, the thing is that this has primarily been, maybe this is part of the confusion as well, is that a lot of people only really know the YouTube channel who are watching these, and I Am Games has primarily been a streaming venture. We stream twice a week, we play lots of different games, and we don't always have, we don't stream for long enough to necessarily complete all the games, but we do play for long enough to have a bunch of thoughts about them. Yeah. And to just sort of share our impressions and talk about just generally what we think, in case you are someone who just likes to hear people talk about games. It's not so much about providing any kind of comprehensive review or a totalizing experience. Some of these we would probably make a second podcast about.
Right.
If we played them more.
I would say this is our Jim impressions, if you watch Jim Sterling.
Very much so.
So he has the podcast where it's just him talking over footage, and then he has edited videos that actually make the more salient, researched, nuanced points.
Right.
And that is what we're trying to do.
As for why we're doing this, it's simply that we both like to play games. We would like to have some excuse to play games and talk about them in our everyday life. But you have to understand that the multiplication of effort that it takes, even just between doing a podcast and even just having video in a podcast. Like, for instance, with the Devil May Cry one, the first one we did, the amount of time it took to download the Twitch video, put it into the podcast, and then render that was 3 times longer than what it takes to just put a single image in there. So It's just a matter of when we do it this way, literally it takes about as long as the podcast takes to record. It's the total effort to put in. And some people just like to hear us talk. I think that,
the idea of this is that maybe I'll even add it in the thumbnail. It's tab over.
Yeah, tab over.
a lot of people are saying you can't even have footage. Just I didn't think anyone would have stared at that same footage throughout the entire Devil May Cry playthrough.
Exactly.
Or the podcast. I figured it was you would have tabbed over.
It would be difficult for us to capture good footage from this stuff because again that would take a lot of setup and effort, and it just would defeat the point. We literally cannot put effort into this channel and justify it in our careers at all. This is it's basically this or nothing for the time being. I'm still intending on continuing shows like the GameCube series, shows like the Tales of series, but it's just not financially feasible at this time because of the amount of extra work it would take. So anyway.
I just hate editing videos so much.
Yeah.
I even have a finished script to go. I just hate editing videos.
Oh, what do you have a finished script on?
Splatoon 2.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I finally put I was working on it earlier today, touching it up, just because I'm reading all the people complaining about no scripted video. I'm maybe I need to be the hero that everyone deserves.
Well, again, the view counts on our scripted videos do not exactly leave us feeling wow, that's a better use of our time.
Yeah, because we were talking about maybe using the podcast as an excuse to comment on current events.
Right.
And then...
Well, that's sort of where we're at right now, because we're going to be talking about this demo that came out.
Another demo podcast.
Yes, the Nintendo Direct that happened that we commented on. We talked about this game, Daemon X Machina, Daemon, I don't know.
Whatever it is.
It's a new Armored Core-esque game that we were interested in because it had a demo available now. It was 4-level demo and
sounded meaty.
you went ahead and gave it a shot first. Did you play through the whole thing, or how far did you go?
I got pretty far. I didn't finish it. I got to the last level. I got to the boss. I didn't beat the boss. I didn't expect you to pick it up again so soon. I was planning on beating it before we did this, but I was like, I don't think the last cutscene after that boss would.
Did you actually watch all the cutscenes?
Yeah.
I was skipping them right off because generally, when I play a new game, if I really do care about the story in a game, first of all, I'll probably know beforehand, depending on, if that's what the reputation of the game is, or the developers, or something like that. But generally, at the very start, I just want to know if the game is even good, like if I should get invested before I start watching cutscenes. And so with this one, I had started skipping them right off the bat, and then I very quickly was like, there's a lot of these. There's a lot of text codec kind of things, and in addition to like full cutscenes, and then like characters talking throughout the battle, and it seemed very like cheesy anime. Like there didn't need to be all this stuff at all.
I very quickly grew to appreciate the relative silence of Armored Core after playing this and having this tacked on. I was like, oh.
What this reminded me of was like very like 90s or early 2000s style of like N64 games, or early GameCube, where you might play maybe like Macross the game.
Oh yeah.
Or the Robotech game, rather.
Robotech Battle Cry.
Yeah, like Robotech Battle Cry, or like the old Star Wars like Squadron games and stuff like that, where it just kind of drops you into a like arena area and you just fly around and kill things.
Yeah.
And but like meanwhile a plot is sort of happening around you, or like the sequences of combat are scripted in such a way as to communicate some kind of ongoing narrative throughout the battle.
Right.
But the actual level design leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, to even say there's level design is kind of generous. And like, again, this is, clearly a demo, and it seems almost not even fully finished, because it's like a prototype thing is what they think they call it, prototype missions. So everything's subject to change, but I can only judge what's here so far. And like, first of all, before we even start going into like good or bad things, like someone had mentioned in the direct comments that this team is comprised of a lot of people who worked on Armored Core.
Oh, really?
Don't know if that's true, because I wouldn't even know the names if they were there. But structurally, it's pretty much identical. Mm-hmm. Like the way it works is that you take missions. The missions have a payout because you're a mercenary, and then any damage incurred to your mech is subtracted from your profits, and you use that money to upgrade your mech. This also adds, you can upgrade yourself. You can go into the lab and get surgeries to make your pilot more powerful, which affects your mech's performance.
Yeah.
That was like the one interesting thing that I don't think was intentional, but was kind of interesting. Did you do any of the pilot upgrading at all?
No, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so like you can go in there and you can get surgeries on your pilot, and like it will change his appearance. And like it was weird because like it felt very, I don't even want to say like it clearly wasn't intentional, but like it's weird because I'm a huge fan of like transhumanism and shit. Like I like that theme in games, and like in this game with the surgeries and stuff, you like cut off your arm and put a robot arm instead. You get like weird like cybernetic implants, and like your eyes get shined and things like that.
That's pretty cool.
Just but like the interesting thing was like in something like Deus Ex Human Revolution, they make a big deal. Like the whole game is on this thing of like, what is the like consequences of transhumanism and things like that. And like it was interesting, but my response to that was like, I want robot bodies. It's so fucking cool. The fact that this game just like you're just a mercenary and you're just hacking yourself apart just to fly a robot better to earn like $5 extra, and the fact that it's presented so flatly made it so much more oddly impactful. Just be like, I just hacked my arm off so I can fly 5% faster. This is like what it would really be like. And like it was not intentional at all, but it just felt, because it was presented so flatly, way more oddly impactful.
That's cool.
It was very weird.
I hadn't even noticed that mechanic, because I'll tell you, I kind of want to go through my experience with this, like, point by point, because before I even picked this up, I had seen you saying, like, don't play this demo, it's bad.
Wasn't a huge fan.
So I was like worried going in, and the first thing that happened is I picked the Switch off the dock upstairs and brought it down, and the volume was all the way up. So as I'm carrying it downstairs, I think you had left your character just standing in the hangar, and there was like a 4-second music loop that was playing, and the whole way me going across the house, and I was like, not listening to the music in this game, like really obnoxious, uninteresting music. So that had me worried right off the bat. But I started a new game, and first of all, I was surprised to find that you get dumped right into a character creator. Mm-hmm. So not the most extensive character creation, but like it was kind of cool. I was like, all right, I'm customizing. Made a fucking girl, and then you get your mech, and aside from the fact that you can replace parts on it just like an Armored Core, you can customize it a lot. You can give it paint jobs, decals. I think you might be able to do this in Armored Core as well. But it seemed as though you just have the one mech that you are customizing. I don't know if you get more than one, or
I was running around the area, and like the way the kind of garage is presented, it's like you have your mech on a platform, and there are 3 other empty platforms. So I'm assuming probably later you can probably get more mechs to customize. But obviously in this demo you're limited to just the one, and only a couple parts you pick up in the field.
I would also assume that the final game will do more with the hangar, because in this demo the hangar is a huge letdown, because it's just sort of a room with a mech and like 5 people you can't talk to.
Yeah.
You can't interface with the mech. You can't interface with anything except for this control panel in the middle of the room, which like I would hope that it made it feel like, why even have a hangar? Like, why not just have a menu? Like, why let me run around this little space if I can't do anything there? But I would assume that that's something that will change in the final game, because that seems obvious. And like there was a pretty decent amount of detail in this demo to make me think that this, like, the amount of customization options that are already available to you on the mech and on your character, like to give it the full paint job, to unlock some extra weapons and decals, to do some customization. It's like, okay, clearly this is trying to give us a taste of what kind of game this is, and this will all be way more extensive once the final game is out. But actually playing the game, and I also liked that there was tons of options. Everything was customizable about your button layout, your sensitivities and everything. Like, all that's present, so that's cool. It lets you really get a feel for it. But like the controls felt really like just stiff and awkward to me.
They feel like Armored Core in a bad way, like Armored Core 1.
Yeah.
That very, like, it's very weird that this game it's like a throwback to Armored Core, almost to its detriment, because like they kind of forgot there was a second analog stick almost, because there's no real aiming. It's all auto aim, like a PS1 game would be.
I played it with constantly moving the second stick.
Yeah, but it's not for aiming.
That was the weird... I didn't understand. I was very confused about what exactly I was doing, because it tells you use the right stick to like lock on, but you don't lock on. Right. You don't lock on in the sense of like select a target and circle strafe. It's more like whatever happens to be in front of you is what you're shooting at.
Yeah, because like the head parts, they increase the range of your auto locking system. Right. So you use the stick not to like lock on anybody, but that, depending on how good your head part is, that range of like being able to automatically lock onto things.
Yeah.
And then when you fire bullets and stuff, they kind of home in on everything. So everything, like, it's very aim assist, like, to the max.
Yeah, and like you just kind of hold the triggers to fire, because there was no... at least I couldn't see if there was any... There's no bullet limit, right? Like, you're just firing endlessly, it seemed like.
No, there's reloading, and there's clip sizes, and there's limited ammo.
Is there? Because I never ran out. Like,
I did it all the time.
I legitimately was just holding down both triggers, like, the whole way through, and not running out of bullets, and just destroying everything. Like, it was piss easy from what I was playing. And, like, I would just kind of go and, like, you get dropped into a map. The enemies are like a bunch of tanks and little, like satellite turrets and stuff. Maybe a robot here and there. But, like, basically all you got to do is look at your mini-map, see where an enemy is, fly to that spot, and then just point the camera at the enemy, hold the triggers until they die.
That's pretty much it. And things die pretty fast.
Yeah, and so I just kind of flew around blowing everything up for a couple of levels. And then I got to the third level, and in spite of the fact that early on, it was, again, just completely unchallenging, at some point an enemy mech got introduced. And I tried this 2 times, and both times I was rapidly destroyed. My mech was rapidly destroyed. I jump out of the mech, and now I'm running around on foot as a person. Did you ever run around on foot?
I did not get out of the mech.
Yeah, so if your mech gets destroyed, you are running around as the pilot, and you can air dash, you can fight as the pilot. Like, you have a little like Phantasy Star Online style mag floating above you that fires bullets or lasers, and like you can throw grenades and you can jet around. But like, you're considerably slower. It's just like it's really difficult because obviously you're more squishy. And the weird part is that, so I assumed from this that I would be able to get into other mechs. Because on the battlefield, you'll sometimes find, like, downed mechs that have parts.
Right.
And you can go over and, like, salvage their parts and send them back to the shop. But I could not, if there is a way to get into them, I could not figure it out. So, like, the first time I was doing this mission, you know, my mech gets destroyed, I'm running around on foot, and I just couldn't, like, find the enemy because they're in a mech dashing around, you know, doing crazy shit. I'm on foot, and so I'm like, I can't catch up to them. I can't really do enough damage. But the fight is still ongoing because my comrades are fighting with the enemy because you have like AI and partners. So I was running around for a while, and eventually I was just like, fuck, I'm just gonna restart the mission. So I restart, same thing happens. This time I managed to fight the enemy on foot enough to like kill a mech. A cutscene plays, we enter like a new phase of the battle, and then at some point, seemingly arbitrarily, it just tells me mission failed. And I was like, well, what did I do? Did I fail because my mech got destroyed? Like, did I finish the mission without the mech? Maybe it was just that the base got destroyed, because I think it was a base defense.
Oh, the library one. Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, but I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, if my mech gets destroyed, just fail me out of the mission, because it fucking sucks trying to fight a mech on foot, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, I was surprised by how good the, you know... As a human, you have like a dash bar where you have like 6 individual dashes, and then you can dash and hold it to like run and go faster. But like, it seems like you should be able to run up walls, but you can't. So it's kind of awkward where like you can run around and you can go fairly fast, but you can't really scale buildings that easily. And like, it just feels like you've been put in a position where it's just gonna suck until you restart, you know?
The last like 5 minutes of you talking, I've had a dumbfounded expression on my face.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, first of all, I like stomped the mission you're talking about. Like the 2 guys come out and like, oh, fight, and then like literally 15 seconds later I had killed both of them. Like, well, that was...
I just got like killed before I really could even like spot them. Were you playing this on the TV or on...
I was on the handheld.
Okay, because I was on handheld too, and I got a headache from like...
The frame rate is very low.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, the frame rate's very choppy.
I was like just constantly like trying to turn around and shit to, you know, to like, it's just like such a small field of view to try to track so many like small moving things across like a fairly dense environment.
Isn't super great. Like the boosters don't work very well. Like the jumping feels kind of like it's kind of gimped. Like
it's so slow.
But here's the thing that's confusing me, because I blew through that. Did you get to the 4th level, or did you?
No, I gave up after
the 4th level. Is you just fight this huge giant bullet sponge boss.
Yeah.
And I fought him for 25 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
I got it down to 50% health, ran out of bullets, and lost. And here's the thing. My mech blew up, and I instantly failed. So
weird.
When you said, oh, you get out of the mech when your mech gets destroyed, I was like, what?
Because when the mech got destroyed, there was like, it says like press X to eject or whatever. And
no,
so
I got destroyed, and then it brought me back to a mission failed
Was it maybe
screen.
like a in space mission or something?
No, it was in the desert.
Weird.
It was because like
maybe it's just that you can't beat that boss on foot. I don't even know.
Maybe, but it was just so odd because like I was fighting this big huge boss with 3 or 4 other guys. And every time they died, if you had like a certain amount of like energy, you can go back over to them and revive your guys and keep them fighting. And the boss would constantly spawn ads, because the ads are where you get your ammo from every time they drop, like, machine gun bullets or something like that. But in order to destroy them, you need to use machine gun bullets or rocket launchers.
Yeah,
so I would be using what 5 or 6 bullets I had left, pick up another 5. I wouldn't have enough to fight the boss. So I just eventually ran out of all my missiles, and both of my guns had no ammo left, and I had no melee. So I was like, well,
what do I do?
Okay. So I just was like dodging for a while, and the boss has this big beam weapon that does like a third of your HP. And so eventually I just let it hit me, and then it just was like mission failed. And I was like, oh, well, that was a half a goddamn hour. The boss there's no even health bar. It's just the 4 AI telling you boss is at 50%. And I had just gotten it to 50%. It'd been 20 minutes, and I was all out of ammo. So I was like, well, this is probably the worst boss fight in any video game.
I'm just as baffled, because I don't remember seeing any bullet meter on screen. So like,
they just kind of pop up on the right side.
I see.
Every now and then, but like they're not constantly on screen. It's only like when they're empty and need to be reloaded.
Because when in the second mission, there are similarly a pair of like big bullet sponge enemies for a little bit. One of them has a big sword, and that was what I had thought, because I heard you say something about like the bosses being bad, and yeah, it was just like a big fat mech with a sword that has like a pretty short range. So as long as you just stay far enough away from it,
nothing happens. He's just like shoink.
He moves
shoink,
extra
like,
slow.
All right.
He swings his little sword. He can't quite reach you, and like occasionally he would fire off like a little missile barrage that you can just dodge easily. So it was just me shooting at a big mech like absent-mindedly for minutes that it took to
and then
destroy it.
You don't even kill them. Like it triggers a cutscene, and like the 2 ace dudes come in and wreck it, and like. The coolest part of the game, they have these big energy beam things. I'm like, where the fuck's this shit? That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because like you have these like pea shooter guns that feel like dick.
That's the biggest problem, is that like all the weapons that you get, at least in this demo, are just like hold down the button and it fires, but it doesn't fire like if I'm gonna shoot a gun in a game, I want it to either be that I press the trigger for every bullet, or that if I'm holding the trigger, it's like that. But instead, it's like pew, 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 pew.
Right. It's like a semi-automatic. I picked up a machine gun eventually from a salvage, and that was like a little better, but it had half the amount of ammo, and that was the gun I had on the boss. So I was like, well, I'm double fucked now.
So what I had done is, because at the start you have your little pew, pew, pew gun and your shield, and then I picked up similarly a machine gun, and I just equipped both guns. So I was just like, maybe that's why I thought I had infinite ammo, because I was just holding both triggers the whole time, and the bullets looked exactly the same from each gun. So maybe I was running out of bullets and re-getting them with one, and maybe the other, like the starting gun, had infinite ammo or something. I
mean, it took me until the boss battle to realize, oh, there's bullets and shit, and like it actually matters. Because before, they died so quickly, ammo was not even a concern.
Right. But I mean, I was like literally holding the triggers throughout the entire mission, like just not even letting go, because why would I? The enemies are just, it's like there were times where like a swarm of enemies would come onto the screen, and before I had even seen all of them, I had destroyed all of them, because like just pushing the camera over towards them automatically caused the bullets to fly into them. So it's like I haven't even moved my reticule over this thing, and it's already dead, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And like the environments they're pretty big. They're big open places, but like your mech moves at a satisfying speed when you're using a boost, but when you're not, you have to wait for an energy meter to refill, and that's all fine, but like everything is so spaced out that like you don't really find yourself wanting to use the boost as much tactically, which is how you're supposed to. Like, clearly it's there for you to dodge attacks. But
Sure.
you mostly end up using it to try to traverse these long-ass stretches between enemies, because you find a bunch of enemies, you kill them in 3 seconds, and then you're like, now I gotta go to the next batch, let me fly all the way over there, and you're using the boost, and then you gotta wait a second, and then you're using the boost, and you wait a second, and you're like, why, I didn't want... The map didn't need to be this big even. Just, like, spawn the enemies closer to me or something.
Yeah.
Like,
even from a technical perspective, the game's not fantastic. Like, it feels... Maybe it's just because it's in handheld mode. Like, we didn't play it on the TV because I didn't feel like re-hooking up all the HDMI cords upstairs and shit to get the Switch on the screen. But in handheld mode, it runs at a low resolution, at a low frame rate, and like the whole, even like the assets of the game feel kind of janky. Like, it's going for that kind of Breath of the Wild, like cell shaded kind of look. It kind of feels like derivative of that, but just like much rougher around the edges. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, I like the overall aesthetic of the game. I like that there's like a pink sky in some of the missions.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff,
color's
and,
great.
Yeah, the color design is neat.
The technical implementation of everything feels
weak. It felt a lot more, even more so than Armored Core, and I haven't played a whole ton of Armored Core myself. In fact, I've barely played it. I played a little more of another FromSoft mech game that I don't remember the name of, but it was similar, but like a little bit more streamlined and like more about one-on-one mech fights, I think. But like, what I remember of Armored Core is much more of like heavy mech battles, like two big heavy robots fucking duking it out. More so than like you being a smaller like Ava unit-esque robot that's like dashing around and fucking fighting lots of small ads and shit. I could be wrong about this, but...
I mean, there were aspects of Armored Core where that was kind of the structure, because again, the structure of this game is basically identical. You take mercenary missions for different companies, and you get paid, and you use that to build your stuff. And there were a lot of ads and stuff. And, like, the guns even in Armored Core didn't feel super great. But, like, nothing really felt super great on PS1. You know? No. That was just kind of, like, the limitations of the time. Now, we definitely don't really have that excuse anymore. So it feels much more out of place.
I just know that, like, the one game that I played from FromSoft on, like, the Xbox that was similar to Armored Core felt way better than this game.
I'm trying to remember what that even was.
It was faster, more... like intense, more of like mech on mech fighting. It was not a popular game, so I don't really remember what it was called, but
I'll have to look it up.
And I didn't play much of it because it's hard as shit.
Well,
but like this game just made me feel more like Earth Defense Force than Armored Core, where like Earth Defense Force is like you're much more of like you flying around in a jetpack around a big level shooting at like an endless wave of enemies, but like that game is more about the satisfaction of using all the weapons to, dispatch these giant monsters and stuff. And this game is like using a pea shooter to shoot at a bunch of nondescript tanks. And also, I don't like that the enemies don't pop off the backgrounds very well. Like, sometimes you can't even really see what you're shooting at. And again, this is exacerbated by being on a handheld, but you made a Switch game,
Right.
So I don't know why you wouldn't account for that, but like you're in a red level and the tanks are also red. So like you only really sometimes see them when the big aim reticule thing pops up around them and you're like, "Oh, okay, that's a thing to shoot at,"
You're using the map a lot to find where things are.
Oh yeah.
Just cuz the scale is big, and even when you're close, like there's not a lot of separation. I don't know, there's just nothing really grabbed me. In terms of like, oh yeah, like this is why I'd want to keep playing this game. Like it was all just like a 5.
It all felt competent, and it felt like if this was a fully featured game, I could see why like it would have a lot of longevity. Why it like there's a lot of good game design ideas in there, but just the core of it doesn't feel that good. It doesn't feel good enough to shoot at enemies. It doesn't feel good enough to fly around. It doesn't feel good enough to aim, like the fact that I kept having parts where I was just like enemies were coming at me and I'm just spinning around and easily making them die on their approach, and then like bosses
it doesn't feel like you're doing it from skill either.
Yeah,
you don't feel like a badass with a reticle doing all the work for you.
Exactly. It just kind of feels like you just go to where the enemy is and then the enemy dies. And
yeah, and the problem is that the coolest things about the game in the demo are like the customization and stuff, and the only way to facilitate that would be to constantly be playing these levels, and that's not nearly as enjoyable. So it's like, do I really want to put myself through all that?
I felt like after I died like twice on the mission, which again, like the first time it was just I lost my mech, and then it was just miserable to play on foot because I'm in like the way the level was laid out, it was like all tall buildings. So it was like I can't even fucking, like, the enemy just has to run away by just ducking behind a building, and now I can't shoot at it, and it takes me way longer to make that same, to make up that distance. And then the second time I just kind of failed, and I was like, man, why let me live after my mech dies? Like, this is miserable. And yeah, like, the time I did get killed, it was kind of just because I couldn't, like, find the enemy. Like, I was getting fired on, and I was like, where the hell are they? Like, turning my camera all over the place, and then I was dead before I realized it.
Yeah, it's weird how that happened to you, because, like, I don't even think I turned the camera at all. I think they just came at us, we all shot them, and then it was over. I was like, that was not even 15 seconds.
You must have been, like, closer to your teammates than I was.
I guess.
So yeah, like, I do think, I feel like this game has potential if this really is like a prototype build, like if this is a game that's still going to spend more time in development, if they tightened up certain things about it. Like, it didn't feel like it had to be this way. Like, it didn't feel as though they had to overhaul everything about the game to make it good. It felt like if there was maybe, an option to just aim at enemies manually, or like to, if maybe the enemies had, like, I don't know. I guess the fact that you can't see them that well is kind of a huge problem, but like,
it just needs more polish.
Yeah, it felt like if it felt tighter, if maybe the levels weren't even quite so big, or if you just had a little bit longer of a boost time, or if the just standard movement was faster, because there's no reason for it to be like when you boost, you go pretty fast, and when you're not boosting, you go really slow, and it just feels like there's not enough of a satisfying middle ground between those two. And also, like, because of the fact that you can literally just fly, like, it doesn't use up your endurance to stay in the air. So, like, a lot of the enemy or the levels have a layout where it's like just a bunch of buildings, and you could just float above it, and then there's no tactics on, like, finding enemies or running around. You just kind of stay up in the air and look down, and if you see something, shoot at it. I guess maybe you'd want to go down to the ground when you were being pressed by more frantic enemy encounters. Maybe this demo just doesn't push things far enough. Like, maybe if you played a harder level, it would ask a lot more of you. Or if you get mech parts that make you move differently, maybe, like, when this is a full game, it will have, like, that feeling of progression of, like, oh, you start off shitty, but eventually you get really good, and, like, your mech is moving way faster and stuff. But it feels unfortunate that I'd rather play a game that just starts that way.
Sure.
Like, I think of, like, Zone of the Enders.
You want to start good and get better, not start shit and get
right. Because it's no fun to play the part where your mech plays like shit. So, like, I'd be willing to believe that this game could release, and maybe in its full form, when people, like, really give it a chance and really get over that early hump, maybe it will turn out that the full game is actually awesome, and, like, people will be like, oh, you guys, your opinion was based on, on just the beginning where things weren't even good yet. And it's right. Like, well,
that's all that's here right now. So
yeah, it's all we've got. And this is a review of the demo. So I would say, yeah, basically, if this game seems like your cup of tea, don't even bother with this demo. Just wait for the full game to be out and see what people say about it then. Because, like, as it stands, it's not fun. And I feel like if they do fix it in the long run, this is just going to put a bad taste in your mouth, and you're not going to want to play the full version,
Sure.
Do you have any parting thoughts on it?
I hope it gets better, because I like the aesthetic, and
yeah,
I like Armored Core, so
if this comes out and it gets rave reviews, I will definitely check it out. But if it comes out and people are like, then I'll be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this podcast, which We're trying to release these. Basically, we're doing these daily just because it's so easy to do. Why not do it daily if it might mean that one of them, you throw, what's the technique called where you just fire enough bullets and one of them's bound to hit the target?
Why we this is like the second time we've fucked up a metaphor on a podcast.
I can never remember how you're idioms. I feel like it's a Texas sharpshooter fallacy or something like that, although that's the opposite maybe. I could be wrong.
You're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks.
I really am. That's what I mean. Yeah. We're throwing shit at the wall because, if we make edited videos and we can only do one every week and none of them succeed, then the channel doesn't go anywhere. But if we put out a video every day and 1 out of 20 succeeds, well, it only took 20 days instead of 20 weeks.
The shotgun method.
Yes. I kept thinking shotgun method, but I wasn't sure exactly. Anyway, see you all in the next one.